Anyway, let's get to it then. This is the week's biggest film. It's one that we've been waiting for quite a while because, well, as we said, back when we started doing this podcast back in October 2014, the news was breaking that this was being made. It has now been made, and we have now seen it.
It's very surreal, isn't it?
It's
sort of come full circle in the end, doesn't it?
It has.
That's the beauty of it, I suppose.
Let's do it then. Ghostbusters 2016.
No time but the present.
No.
Right. Well, yeah. So I mean, it seemed doomed from the outset. This didn't it? I mean, I mean, just everything surrounding it from the start to the finish has had controversy surrounding it. I mean, from the email, the leaked Sony emails where Ivan Reitman was basically forced out of the project, to the rumours that the email that said they might have to use legal action to strong arm Bill Murray into the film. You know, it's been muddy waters. I think that's the best way to say it. Not the good muddy waters.
I mean, the Sony email stuff, you could say that is genuine controversy, but the rest of it's been storm in a teacup stuff.
Yeah, but the rest of that, I mean, the fact that there was the most disliked trailer in YouTube history, maybe the most disliked video in YouTube history.
That's a good thing to say. That when we first saw the trailer, we didn't like it. We all sat there in stony silence going, "Oh my word, this is going to be terrible."
But I mean, to be fair, that is a Paul Feig trait. But we've just been having discussions off the air, isn't it? We think Americans call him Paul Feig.
Some say Feig. Kate McKinnon there said Feig.
Alright, so I'm going to say Feig. I'm going to agree with Kate McKinnon.
Do what you want.
Because she's lovely. But yeah, Paul Feig, I mean, to be fair, all of his films have had terrible marketing campaigns and trailers. He's admitted himself this much.
Yeah. So
he agrees with it. But I mean, in this one, it's been another case of the fact that both of the trailers were pretty naff. And
I like the second one.
Yeah, in the second one, the focus on Chris Hemsworth's character more, so fair play to them for that. Basically, I mean, Paul Feig as well, as a director, you can see why he was chosen as this director, because he's made considerable profits on all the films that he's made, and all have been genuinely well received. You know, I mean, I was quite a big fan of Spy. I've seen The Heat. I didn't really like that. I haven't seen Bridesmaids yet, but you've seen that, and you really enjoyed that. So you know, he was one of the standout candidates, I suppose, and I can see why they've chosen him. However, if he was a success or not, well, we'll find out. But basically, in this new story, it's a completely new cast of Ghostbusters, as we know. It's a total reboot. We've got Melissa McCarthy as Dr. Abby Yates. She has published a book which was written by Kristen Wiig's Erin Gilbert, who was, she's doing tenure at Columbia College, and basically Abby Yates has published this book, and this is threatening to, derail her career by proving her as an incredible scientist. So obviously she doesn't want this book on. However, there is an actual ghost in a mansion, and they go there, and the ghost is physically there, so they go together. And Abby Yates' understudy, Holtzman, played by Kate McKinnon, is basically they decide to sort of get all this equipment together and start fighting the ghosts for real. And eventually along the road they get Leslie Jones's character Patti Smith, who is a tunnel conductor down in the underground, and she basically knows New York better than anybody. So do they work together? That is the main thing. And for me, to be honest, I think I really, really don't want to go on a tirade of hate of this, because I don't hate it as a film. I think this is a film that is very, very poor, and I'll explain why. But I feel like it's simply not worth getting angry over, and I want to wrap up the review with why it's such a stupid idea to be getting so angry over this, as a large section of the internet.
There's enough people getting angry about it.
Yeah, but the Ghostbusters themselves, it seems like Kate McKinnon is in a different film to all of the others, because they're sort of like, they're not playing it straight and narrow, but they're sort of like, they're dialing it enough in their character types to make it seem that they are very different to what Kate McKinnon is trying to do, because she's sort of got that bug-eyed, like, straight-up whack job look the entire time. She's clearly like the most different character of the rest, and I guess that's probably gained from the SNL past, where she might have got that. I mean,
she's still there, and she's
so I mean, you can see why, and I did feel like, I mean, she was good at first. I did enjoy watching her character at first, but I feel like they were beaten over the head with that character trope the entire time for the whole of the film. It starts to get weary as time goes on. Chris Hemsworth as the new receptionist as well, he was really funny as well as first, but it starts to get, a lot more boring as time goes on, and it gets beaten over the head a lot. And I feel like the villain in this film as well is extremely lacking, because, I mean, in the first one, it was sort of lodged in that the sort of mythical spirits, they had like Tobin's spirit guide and that all these things, that they had mythology behind it. In this one, it's basically just some nerd in a basement who wants to call upon the apocalypse. So there's no real sort of desire to go against him, really. Otherwise, look at the irritating, socially awkward nerd. It's a bit naff, to be honest. And I feel like there's a lot more that could have gone on within the cast. I mean, how do you feel they got on?
I think it generally worked really well.
Yeah.
I think the four of them, especially, I had the big skeptical thing for me was, would Kristen Wiig work in the straight role because she, her sort of SNL type is very similar to Kate McKinnon's sort of crazy whack job. She's known especially for her accents and really going over the top. In this, she's really dialed down to the point where she's the most sort of normal of them all.
Yeah,
and I think it actually works. The sort of underplayed laughs that she does get are funny. Melissa McCarthy's not annoying for the first time in forever.
There are some of the typical Melissa McCarthy tropes in there.
But it's kind of more lovable than just.
And I think you have to give props to the film as well, to the fact that Leslie Jones is nowhere near as much of a racial stereotype as people were making out to be from the trailers. She does have those loud moments, but that's sort of just her comedy style. And I feel like her character had a lot more to it than people were giving it credit for. And all of the Ghostbusters in this new one have their own character types. They're not just straight rip-offs of Venkman, Stans, Winston and Egon. They're all different people. So it's fair play to them. I mean, it is a reboot rather than a remake.
Yeah,
so they've got their own
We've now got a clear definition that it is a reboot and not like a sequel or whatever.
But yeah, I just feel, to be honest, I mean, the film, for me at least, was rather lazy, just uninspired and just unfunny because it has considerably less wit and charm than the original had. I mean, the original had lowbrow humour. It had Ray having a sexual act performed on him by a ghost, which is about as lowbrow as you can get.
Yeah, nothing of that level happens in this.
No,
film.
Nothing of that level happens in this. But it had real heart and soul, and the comedy that came organically from the situations developed. And this one, it just sort of feels like an empty, constant stream of quips, poor references, and a crushing sense of self-awareness, which just really gets to the film as time goes on. And I feel like it seems almost ashamed to even call itself Ghostbusters, and it has been from the start, seemingly, because I mean that's the fault of the naysayers as well, because it can't have been easy making a film like this with all that backlash. It cannot have been an easy task at all. But the film in the end sort of deals with that awkward tone that maybe it would have been simpler if it just simply cut ties from the original completely. And I mean, a lot of people would have been happy if they just simply continued with the passing of the torch, like if they, obviously Bill Murray for years didn't want to get involved with it at all, and now they've suddenly managed to get him back for a cameo. Whether he was strong-armed into that, we may never know. But to be fair, I mean, the fact that he's come back for this, maybe this is just something a little simpler that he wanted to do. But I feel like if they'd done something like that, even if they just got back Dan Aykroyd to do like a little passing of the torch, there would have been a lot less angry people. I think the fact that some people think that Paul Feig has the audacity to remake Ghostbusters is in of its own self. And I feel like that's where most of the controversy comes from, the reboot aspect of it. And I don't think I see a problem at all with rebooting a film like this, because it's not going to kill your childhood.
No.
I don't know why, but I think if your childhood was so poor that a film being remade would ruin it, then I think you need to reevaluate what your standing is in life, maybe. I feel like there's a problem with that.
It's not just Ghostbusters. A lot of things are being rebooted. So maybe this one particular person who, let's just call him person A.
Yeah.
All of these things have been rebooted from their childhood. This is just kind of one more thing. I don't think it should ruin childhood. So I think it's
not at all.
A bit of a stretch.
It's far too much of an overstatement. I mean, obviously this has probably the biggest following of any of the 80s remakes we've had, like the Point Break remake, like the RoboCop remake, stuff like that. But obviously they never had the audacity to remake Back to the Future, because Robert Zemeckis has said himself he will defend it until he dies.
Good.
So good on him. But
until he dies. Yeah.
Until he dies, and then
and when he dies, that's it.
Well, I mean, this got going as soon as Harold Ramis died.
There you go.
So there you go. And there is no straight up reference to Harold Ramis in that. There is sort of an iron bust outside of Erin Gilbert's college. Yeah. So that's a nice little nod of the hat. So that sort of hints it might be in the same universe as well, really. But I don't know, I just feel like this film, that is probably the biggest sort of negative towards for me anyway, because it feels like it's a film that's very unsure of itself and needs to defend every aspect of itself, because they filmed a scene before the film's release where they directly address internet trolls of the Ghostbusters, and that just smacks of desperation, I feel. And I mean, the dance scene, there is a dance scene later on where the villain sort of possesses all of the armed forces and gets them to sort of strike a dance pose, and there was a dance scene in there which they have cut and put in the end credits instead, because it would have been that bad. And that just sort of sums it up, really, why they've been so unsure to have their own stance on it. I feel like, if you're gonna do a Ghostbusters reboot, why not just fully commit to yourself and just not interact with the backlash at all? I feel like,
You're quite done?
Well, yeah, I mean,
so ignore what he's just said, because it's so much fun. It's fun. Like, forget that it's Ghostbusters, because I think the film does forget that it is Ghostbusters, and it becomes a separate thing. There's kind of things that, and I know you said something earlier about, like, it constantly reminds you about the old one.
I mean,
no, it doesn't do that though. It doesn't need to. It's Ghostbusters. Everyone knows Ghostbusters. It's not like saying, do you remember that bit from that? It's like, no, because everyone kind of knows it. A lot of people know it off by heart.
It tries to stand alone, but it's desperate to remind you of the original with all the throwbacks and the cameos. Bill Murray's sleepwalking cameo, and Dan Aykroyd goes in there, with the classic line, I'm afraid of no ghost. And like, Dan, man, why? It's cringeworthy.
Well, you're wrong. I think I'm not gonna like stick up for it like massively because I think it was like a fine film. The thing, I didn't actually laugh like physically that much. I did just sort of smile constantly for the whole thing. I enjoyed it. That's kind of all it is. People who think that it's ruined the childhood, I agree. Grow up. The people on review sites who are purposely giving it either half a star or like 5
It's
stars.
already become one of IMDb's most lowest rated films ever, which just sums up
that's shocking.
That's just really
it's
pathetic.
That's desperate and pathetic. I think it's a case of really you've got to go see it and make your own mind up because it depends how you feel. It really depends how you feel. If and certainly it's not a problem that it's a female cast. That's
not at all. No.
As I was saying before, you kind of just jump back into your little thing. The cast works well. Again, it doesn't matter that they're female, and I do think that Chris Hemsworth is put in more than he would have been in earlier drafts of the film to kind of supplement it a bit. I think I agree with the insecurity that Paul Feig's style is to kind of film lots and lots and lots of material and just sort of throw it all and see what sticks. It's 2 hours long. Bridesmaids is 2 hours long. Spy is 2 hours long. I'm guessing the Heat's kind of about the same time, Ryan.
Yeah, but it's about the same time.
So
yeah.
he's a guy who films a lot of material, and I think there are bits here where it feels like it could have been a bit shorter, and there's certainly some scenes that could have been a bit shorter, but you feel like they put a bit of Chris Hemsworth in there to sort of, I don't know, just to appease the people who don't like the female Ghostbusters, or the Ghost Girls as they're called in the film. I liked it. I really enjoyed it, and I mean, I'm not. It's not like not my favourite comedy of the year by any means, but I think it's enjoyable, and I think I like the way it's choreographed. I do think it's genuinely fun. I agree with some of what you said, but I generally think
How do you feel about the climax? Because I feel it just sort of devolves into a drab CGI fighting slog. I mean, there's a good scene with Kate McKinnon there that I rather did like, but a good moment more. But I feel like it was just so drab and joyless the whole way through. I thought. I mean, I respect what you think, but I mean, I was just bored.
Yeah, I literally, I'm not gonna lie, I did fall asleep at a lot of points in the movie. I didn't find any point. I just did not find any of it funny. I'm not the biggest fan of Ghostbusters.
No.
I didn't.
No, not at all.
I mean, even before the show, when I was saying like, oh, that might be good. You never know. And not one moment did I laugh. Not one moment did I feel like I'm having fun. Everything moved too quick. There was just scenes that kind of slung in. That thing you're saying about Paul Feig saying he just kind of slugs it all in. Sometimes that can work, but a good majority of the time with Hollywood, they need to learn that doesn't.
It's true. There's not a lot of real like sort of. As part of the material, there's not really many things that are sort of come from the situations. A lot of it is the sort of and it's what you were saying a few weeks ago about like sort of reactionary comedy.
Yeah, that's it. Sometimes it works, sometimes, but majority of the time it doesn't, because it's you can just tell. You got like, does that ever happen in a film with bad comedies? You just kind of like, oh yeah, they must have just kind of put the camera down and just and that gets you out of the movie, and it's boring. It's
I don't think I can explain why I like it this much. It's not something that I can't explain. I can't really sort of. I'm not going to stick up for it. I just think it's one of those different strokes.
It's not the worst thing. It's not. I don't get why people are saying it's incredibly average either, because I thought it was quite poorly made, and that just didn't.
The ghosts themselves look like something out of the Scooby-Doo live action films.
I didn't enjoy my time watching it, and I just sunk in my seat and tried to fall asleep.
Some things are just better left alone.
I agree. I don't think it needed to be. It didn't need to be made. So I mean, the fact that we're obviously it's being made, we're gonna watch it. Yeah. The fact that I liked it is a kind of bonus. But I mean, I guess
they would have saved themselves a lot of hassle if they just hadn't made it.
It's gonna make money.
These are talented people that didn't need all of this hate from people who are downright sexists and from people who aren't sexists but are still children over this. Yeah, petulant children.
At least wait to watch the film before you judge people.
One final thing before we move on. It's not anti-male. I've seen people saying it's like sexist and misogynistic against men. No.
I can see why people say that.
I can see why people will get on their soapbox and pretend to say
I wouldn't agree with it, but I can see why people say that.
There you go.
Not a good film. I don't think.
That's Ghostbusters. We're going to get to some reviews that have been sent in. Scott said, really enjoyed Ghostbusters, really well written and completely positive for the franchise, and he's putting sort of a bit lower down. In other news, avoid new Tarzan at all costs. It's up there with Ride Along 2. I think we scarred Scott that day. I think every time I get in touch now, he said it wasn't as bad as Ride Along 2. That was obviously the show he
that's
came
what happens
on
when
for.
you come along with the show. You do the show, you get burned.
We'll sacrifice a lot, Scott.
Yes. George was on the show a few weeks ago, and if you listen to the podcast, we chatted quite a good length about Ghostbusters, and he was, well, he says here, I was nervous, anxious and cynical, but you know what? I thought was brilliant. It was smart, stupid as hell, scary, and more importantly, really funny. It takes it seriously, but isn't afraid of poking fun at itself. There's a great chemistry between the Ghost girls, all working really well together, but it's Kate McKinnon and the lovably moronic Kevin stealing the show for me. It's not the original, but I don't think it ever tries to be. There's enough respect for the love and love for the first two, but it manages to stand on its own 2 feet. For the most part, it was a surprisingly faithful reboot. I think faithful is the key word there. I think it's not the original film, it's faithful.
Well, it's interesting. It's been a big divide, isn't it, about chemistry with the film?
Yeah.
I don't
think they had any chemistry.
Kate
McKinnon seems like she's in a different film.
Even Kate McKinnon, I just didn't think she was funny. Even the scenes when she's dancing, it just wasn't. I was just watching.
I think Kristen Wiig's the MVP for me. But, I mean, yeah, that's what I was saying.
I mean, even the little scene where Kristen Wiig's kind of pouring her heart out, and it's just slung in there, and it doesn't feel like it's got any weight to it. Even though it doesn't have to have any weight, at least try and be funny. It's not though.
I agree with what George said. It is definitely stupid.
No,
they slam the ghosts
stupid.
into the ground. I noticed that. Like what? And then when they're defeated, they're lying there on the ground.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Strange.
Ghostbusters. I think we'll move away from Ghostbusters now. There's been plenty said. If you do see it across the week, because I imagine we'll be speaking about this again next week. I know a few people are going to see it across, because it's actually in cinemas today. It's been on preview since Monday. If you do hear it and if you do see it, then tell us what you thought of it. Tweet us at Spark Film Show on Twitter.
Yes.
LRJ Film Show on Twitter.
LRJ Film Show.
Actually, we do have that one as well. You could do that one, but I probably wouldn't say
give it LRJ Film Show.
Yes. After